And we do begin with that sprawling winter storm slamming parts of the U.S. this morning. Right now, more than 60 million Americans are waking up under winter weather alerts from the West Coast all the way to New England.
In parts of the upper Midwest, the snow plows are out in full force as drivers are asked to stay off the roads, and you can see why. Take a look at this new video from the South Dakota Highway Patrol. It shows just how blinding that snow can be as we head into what officials are calling an unprecedented 3-day snow event.
This is indeed going to be a historic storm. It's going to be a tough storm, especially for those in open country. You know, the wind blows and it gets very, very tough, especially when you have a lot of heavy snow and very strong wind.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz issued emergency executive orders that allow state agencies to put equipment and personnel in place so they are ready to make rescues if needed. Forecasters say the storm could drop nearly 2 feet of snow on parts of southern Minnesota. We've got team coverage of this massive winter storm. Meteorologist Angie Lassman will have the full forecast in just a moment. But let's begin with NBC News correspondent Niala Charles in Minneapolis. Niala, good to see you. I know I've been talking with my family in Minnesota. They're hunkering down. How are things looking out there right now?
Well, Joe, it's cold here. It's in the teens and with wind chills expected in the negatives because of those wind gusts that are as high as 40 miles per hour. We're in for a very icy day. Take a look at the roads here in Minnesota. Most of them are either completely covered or partially covered, and that's despite snowplow workers working long 12-hour shifts to get all this snow out of the way. So that just gives you a sense of how fast the snow came down overnight and how it continues to come down here in the first round of snow. Joe?
As we can see with all that snow behind you already, you know, the state's no stranger to severe weather, but this does have the makings of a potentially historic storm, right? I mean, how worried are officials there?
Well, officials are definitely getting out the word. Don't go outside. Don't drive unless it's an emergency. The governor of Minnesota has issued out emergency orders. Even the National Guard is here on standby, Joe, in case they need to rescue people who are stranded. This is what the mayors of the Twin Cities are saying.
We are bracing for what is likely to be one of the largest snowstorms in Minnesota history. We expect it to have major impacts across the Twin Cities on every aspect of life, every aspect of city operations for the rest of this week.
We are preparing for what will likely be an historic snow event. We've got multiple departments and multiple jurisdictions, both Minneapolis and St. Paul, doing everything possible to make sure that we are prepared.
So strong words out there, Joe. Officials are trying to really get out a sense of urgency here. And like you know, since your family's from Minnesota, that's a hard thing to do here because the people in Minnesota pride themselves on getting through a Minnesota winter. I know that because I worked here as well. So here the snow is a way of life. So somehow these officials need to convince people that in case the storm does reach historic levels, they don't necessarily know this storm as well as they think they do. Joe?
You know, here's another sign of things to come. Schools in the Twin Cities are shifting to e-learning for the rest of the week already, so you know they're expecting a lot of snow. Real quickly, what are you hearing from just everyday folks in the area?
Well, they're saying that every time in the winter, you know, all these different weeks, they've been hearing that they should expect a historic snow. So a lot of people here don't necessarily know if that's something they should believe. We know, although, like you mentioned, schools are closed, a lot of businesses are still open. Even the Mall of America is opened here. They reached out to businesses and retailers on social media actually urging them to stay open so that people can come shop. And even the high school state hockey tournament is happening this afternoon at 11. So that just gives you a sense, Joe, of how there's a difference between what officials are saying and what people are actually doing.
All right, Niala Charles in Minneapolis, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.